All right, we are here with Shreeja Jamdar from PriceLabs, Chief of Staff, guys. So we're in great company. Today we have a really special episode where we are talking about Price Labs. You guys know how much I love Price Labs. You know my story with the 28K for my short-term rental turned midterm rental. And today we wanted to dive in a little bit more as to how to leverage Price Labs for midterm rental stays, especially during certain seasons of our property management. So let's do a little bit of a deep dive. Shrija, I would love for you to jump in and introduce yourself, and we'll dive into some poignant questions that our community has been having about their slow seasons for midterm rentals.
Hey Rachel, first of all, really psyched to be here with you. And you already introduced me, Chief of Staff at Price Labs, and do a bunch of things because that's what the job role entails, a mishmash of a lot of marketing activities. Loving it. Great opportunity that I have thanks to being in this role. I think with respect to midterm rentals, right? I know that we're now in the slow season, and a lot of questions have been coming in about how do we really maximize our revenue for the slow season. And one of the things that is of those strategies that not everyone really thinks about is uh, what if we were to move to a midterm rental play for that for your market, right? um,
Yeah.
as we move into your low season and your shoulder season, the chances of you getting booked out frequently for smaller length of stay becomes lower. So at this
Yeah.
point, getting in that one booking that's more than 30 nights can really make or break not just your revenue but also your peace of mind, so you can enjoy the holiday season.
Yeah.
So that's where we're really at in terms of thinking of midterm rentals for this low season and the shoulder season as well.
And you mentioned a term, so I fully understand peak season. I fully understand slow season, but a lot of our audience members may not be very familiar with shoulder season. Could you just give us a basic definition of what is shoulder season?
Sure. Very simply, the time between your peak season and your low season, or if you have, a peak season in, let's say, spring, and you have a peak season in fall, in say winter, then the time in between is your shoulder season. I personally love to travel in the shoulder season because that's when you get, you know, great weather, great, just the right amount of crowd, and the best prices as a traveler. But as a short-term rental or a mid-term rental owner, it's also a good opportunity to, tinker with some different strategies, and it's not a time when revenue is all lost.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so we've already established and set the tone that yes, midterm rentals are definitely a good option for those shoulder and slower seasons, just to keep our opportunities open as wide as possible. Now, for me, I have a number of different midterm rental avatars or clientele that I like to serve. I like to serve the insurance displaced individuals, those who are relocating. Some of those are very last minute. Others are coming for leisure. Of course, they're coming for better weather, like you had mentioned, kind of that sweet spot. Could you share with our audience a few examples of the clients or even the markets that you've seen that midterm rentals work particularly well for these shoulder and slow seasons?
I mean, there's two ways to think about it, and that's how I would. Any market that has a lot of tourist demand in the peak season is going to see some demand in the shoulder and low season because there are going to be travelers like myself who are maybe looking for deals, or maybe that's the time that they have to take a break. And there are also these other markets where you see a lot of business travel or a lot of medical practitioner travel as well. And those markets are really those are almost evergreen markets, right? Because there's isn't necessarily a very high peak or a
Mm.
very low trough. So those are the kinds of markets where shoulder or peak are the ones to capitalize on. if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. I love the term evergreen markets. I don't think I've ever used that. So thank you for sharing it with
Yeah.
us. So, for those of us who are thinking, okay, but Shrija, how do we start preparing ourselves to market, to get those leads to come in to see our properties? I know in the green room you had shared a little bit of gyms. I said, okay, hold up, let's save that for the audience. So did you want to go over those four marketing tips?
Oh, yeah. So I went to business school and I was a marketing major. And one of the foundational concepts that we get taught is the four P's of marketing. So I thought to use that in the context of, like a little bit of a strategy for short-term rental hosts looking to move to mid-term rental or mid-term rental hosts looking at sort of the low season. So the four P's are product, price, place, and promotion. So I'll go over them one at a time. So when you're set, so let's talk about product first, which is your property, right? Uh, so what is it that you need to do in your property to make it more midterm rental friendly? There's a lot of
Mm.
YouTube videos on this. I'm not the expert on how to make a great product, but there are some really interesting facilities and amenities that one might not really think of, like a second screen. Now, I work from home and I'm crippled without my second screen. So if I were to, right, right. So and then when I go and travel,
Same.
whether it's to conference or home, and I have to work from that one screen, I feel like I'm like 50% efficient. It's
Yeah.
so if I were to go to an Airbnb and it has a second screen, I would pay a premium for that, right? So some of these like facilities that make a lot of sense for midterm rentals is something that I think hosts can think about. So that's product.
Mm.
And then we come to place, which is essentially where is your product available. Now, in the FMCG context, it's your retail stores, your online stores. But for
Okay.
yeah, but for the host, where your product is your property, your places are going to be your Airbnb, all your OTAs like Zillow, Furnish Finder, and then as a midterm rental, you also want to think about those company contracts, insurance companies, and yeah, so making sure that you're reaching out into these places and having your property listed or having your property out there is going to cover that second piece. So you have your product ready, you have, you put it out in all the right places. Then you come to the third P, which is promotion. So are you promoting your property, right? It's sitting there, but people need to hear about it. So I think Facebook groups are a great place to find people looking for midterm rentals themselves. So Facebook groups, looking at all other kinds of social media. Again, tons of material out there on how to promote. So I won't spend too much time there. So again, from the top, you've made your place, you have it on the right places, you're promoting it, and now we come to my favorite P, which is what PriceLabs stands for, which is pricing. So you want
Mhm.
to make sure that you're pricing your property right, and that's where a really powerful tool like PriceLabs comes in. But this isn't just about PriceLabs at this point. It's about making sure that you're pricing your property in a really intelligent way so that you're not just
Mm.
making, you're making your revenue to sort of help you run the place and to make your profits, but also sort of catering to that supply demand dynamic, which can only come in if you really understand the platform and sorry, understand the market. So yeah, those are my four P's, and we can dive more into the pricing P or anything else that you want to.
This is so good. I love a good framework. So I have been taking notes. We have product, which is our actual property. That's the product that the guest gets to take advantage of. We have place, where you're listing the properties, right? Visibility is key when it comes to leveraging those midterm rental stays. Promotions, what are you doing to get it out there and amplify that visibility? I love that. And then price. So that takes us to the crux of the
Yeah.
conversation. Price Labs, right? So, for those of us who are new to midterm rentals, could you first of all, you know what? One thing I didn't really do, Shrija, I just take for granted the fact that everyone knows Price Labs by now. But I'm being told from my community, what are you talking about? You're talking way above us. So let's level set a little bit. What is Price Labs?
You know, I really like that there's so many people that still don't know Price Labs, because that's an opportunity for us to also, help more people with their vacation rental
Hmm.
businesses, especially as more people enter, this form of entrepreneurship. So at its basic, Price Labs is a revenue management and dynamic pricing software. So anything that a vacation rental host needs, whether it's short-term rental or mid-term rental, to price their properties right, uh, they need to look no further than Price Labs, and any market data that they might need to make some really smart decisions about pricing, or even about just their property on the whole. That's where they can turn to Price Labs as well. And I think we're, we've been around for, this was a 10th year, so we've been around for a pretty long time now. And it's always really exciting to see new use cases, new kinds of, people using Price Labs. So very excited to see what your community also does with the platform.
Yeah, and guys, I love Price Labs. The reason that I love the tool is it helps me get back my life. At the end of the day, I set up my pricing on Price Labs. It pushes it out to Airbnb, it pushes it out to Verbo, and I know that all I have to do is glance at it every few weeks or so, and I know that my properties are priced competitively, not just, for today. I'm not going in and manually putting in my price every single night. PriceLab actually pushes it out for me, and I can set it up for the next 12 months as to how I want, that pricing to adjust. I can enter in my minimum so that my pricing never falls below a certain price. I think that's important for me because I know how much I need to make, right, to stay on top. And there's a maximum there. I typically don't add a maximum. I'm like, let Price Labs do its thing. Right. And that's how I stumbled into a $28,000 per month booking with Price Labs, because had I done the pricing myself for that property, I thought I was being very rich to think that this property could make $8,000. I would have been short $20,000. This is not an everyday occurrence, of course, but this is my truth. This is what happened to me. And so I always say, you know what? There might be new kids on the block, other tools that are coming in, but nothing compares to Price Labs. It's user friendly. For those of you, again, my busy docs, definitely. This is what I use every day. You guys know that I come at you with actual products that I use. This is what I use every day. I log into Price Lab on my Thursday, pricing Thursdays, and I just take a look. If everything is booked, you know what? I chill. But if I start to have some holes in my calendar, I say, okay, let me see what I can do to adjust to make sure that we continue to get some of those bookings. And she's just going to be sharing with us some tips and tricks. So, for those who are new to Price Labs, could you tell us, Shrija, what are some key features that we should focus on to set the right rates for our midterm rentals?
First of all, thank you for covering all of those things about Price Labs that I did not. I gave an elevator pitch. So I'm really glad you covered all of those amazing things that the tool does, and your personal story as well. I mean, that's you're also a risk taker, Rachel. I mean, of course, the fact that you did not keep a max price, that's, I think that's paid off. But yeah, I also really love the fact that you called out how Price Labs helps all your busy doctor audiences, because you're a doctor, and as a midterm rental host, or a short-term rental host, you have so much to do, right from setting up all those 4 Ps that we spoke about. So you have so much to do with your product, to setting up your property, promoting it, that this one thing that can be taken off the plate is a huge game changer, right? Now,
Yeah.
coming to how we'd set up the property on PriceLabs, I think the most important thing that we need from anyone that uses PriceLabs today is the base price, the minimum price, and the maximum price, which you touched upon shortly.
Yeah.
And I think this is the most fundamental aspect that we need from anyone that's using it, because it's on top of this that we layer on our pricing recommendations. Now, typically, this is what we have as a nightly rate, but we understand that for midterm rentals, this could work slightly differently. So, what we recommend that midterm renters do for their minimum, maximum, and their base is you think about what your rate should be for, let's say, your booking period. If it's, let's say it's 30 days. So you think about what your 30-day rate should be like for your property. What is your monthly minimum? And then you divide that by 30. So that becomes
Mm.
your minimum price. You do the same for your maximum price, and then your base price falls in between the two. So this is a slight tweak to the way we think about base min max for short-term rentals versus mid-term rentals. And once you have that, there are a few really, really powerful you know, tools that PriceLabs offers for midterm rentals. The first that I'd like to touch upon is our minimum stay settings. So you can go into PriceLabs, set in a minimum stay of, let's say, 30 nights or 60 nights, whatever it is that works for you. And we make sure that you only get a booking for those many nights. Um, but that's not all. If you're not sure of the number of nights that you need to book for, that you need to keep your minimum stay, I really, really love our uh, minimum stay recommendation tool, because what that does is it
Mm.
looks at your specific market and tells you that for midterm rentals in this market, uh, X percentage of bookings came in for Y number of nights. So an example would be
Mm.
for, where are you based out of right now?
Atlanta,
Okay,
Georgia.
so let's say, I mean, I don't know what the midterm rental trends are for Atlanta, but
Mhm.
you might see a trend saying for Atlanta, for this region, uh, we're seeing 40% of midterm rental bookings come in for 28 nights. So you know that
Wow.
you're supposed to, that if you were to set a minimum stay of 28 nights, you increase your chances of getting booked out for those many nights. So you're not leaving any money on the table, right? So that's, I think, a really powerful tool that PriceLabs offers. There's a few more, but I'll sort of pause there. So
Yeah.
you can, maybe deep dive on that, or if you had any questions on that you think, your audience could do it.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And so the wheels are turning in my mind as well because I don't think that I've been using it to that extent with the minimum stays. I've been doing that directly in the OTAs. So, how far in advance do you or would you recommend that we are looking at those data points of the minimum stay settings? How far in advance should we be reviewing that? Do we focus on that particularly when we know we're approaching our shoulder or slow seasons? What are your thoughts around that, Shrija?
It's an interesting question. So honestly, you could set it up right away.
Oh,
If you're not a So there's a couple of different use cases here, right? If you're only a midterm rental host, you could set them up right away as soon as you start using PriceLabs. But if you're
nice.
someone that's moving from a short-term rental strategy in your peak season to a midterm rental in your shoulder or low seasons, then you
Yeah.
could set up a seasonal profile, which is again a little bit of a complicated feature, but it exists. And so you
Hmm.
could set that up for your property that way. Or you could also, one of the things that you could also do is you could look at your booking window, and if you find that your booking window is, let's say, 30 days or 60 days, then that's when you want to start looking at changing up your minimum stay for the peak, sorry, for the low season or the shoulder season.
Oh, that's so good. Okay, so I have just added to my list seasonal profile. So in our community, I'll see if we can hop on one of those PriceLabs
Yeah,
trainings that are ongoing for a seasonal profile training. I love that.
yeah.
I think it would benefit so many members of our community to have that set up because I truly believe in automation. What else can we automate in our business, right? We can delegate things, we can automate things, and essentially eliminate things. So it's all about the
Yeah,
leveraging the
absolutely.
hacks. Yeah. So what are some other settings that we need to be mindful of for midterm rental stays versus short-term rental stays? I know earlier we also talked about trends in market dashboards. I'll let you direct this conversation to let us know what we need to be thinking about.
So one of the biggest things that I think midterm rental hosts should do when they're using Price Labs is not just so once you're done setting up your minimum stay, uh, do look at this nifty little feature that we call orphan gaps. Now, the way to explain an orphan
Mm,
gap is basically an unbooked window between two bookings. So, let's say
yeah.
you've gotten a 28-day stay, and then there's a 14-day gap, and there's another 28-day booking. Now, if your minimum stay is 28 nights, you will not be able to book out. Nobody will be able to book that 14 night window, right? Which is the orphan gap. Uh, but it is revenue waiting to be made. So what we could do here is use this feature called as the orphan gap minimum stay, and you could lower your minimum stay requirement for that gap and allow people to, let's say, book for 7 days or 14 days or whatever it is, right, that you're comfortable with. So what that lets you do is it lets you have a 28-day booking, another 28-day booking, and hey, maybe someone has decided to come into the town for a week and they decide to stay at your property, and there you go. So now you've made another revenue for another 7 nights, and that's not just lying around unbooked. So I feel like that's a really powerful uh, feature of Price Labs that midterm rentals should definitely use.
I love that. That's because those nights are precious dollars that are sitting there on
Yeah.
the table. And I truly believe in making money every day with my property. So that's a great way to take advantage of the orphan gap stays. So pay attention to that, guys. Very, very important. Thank you for sharing that. And also you mentioned the power of the market
Yeah.
dashboards to make some smart decisions. Could you help us to understand a little bit more about that? I know I've used a couple of the market dashboards, particularly when I'm breaking into a new market, and I have yet to find something as comprehensive as what Price Labs has shared. So, would love for you to share with the people what that looks like, because I'm sure I didn't take full advantage of all of the data points located inside of the market dashboard, but immediately it helped me to make a decision not to go into a risky market, which was very, very important to me.
So that's a really interesting use case of how you're using market dashboards for your community. If it's for people listening out there, if you're just a host and just want to understand your market a little bit better, the market dashboard is a great tool to let you do that. Um, and the beauty of the market dashboard is that you can filter it to only show midterm rentals in that market. So you could,
Mm.
filter on the number of bedrooms. So let's say you have a three-bedroom apartment that you give out for 28 nights. So you could filter your market dashboard to only show three-bedroom apartments that have a minimum stay of at least 28 nights or more. So now you're comparing yourself directly with the relevant competition, and you get a rich, trove of data where you're able to, see a lot of trends in your market, future prices, occupancy, booking windows, and there's honestly like a bunch of different graphs. I love nerding out over data, so I really like our market data and neighborhood data tab as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you can also, I think one of the really interesting things that I find whenever I show Price Labs to any person is the ability to actually go into and select individual properties that you want to compare in this little part in the neighborhood data tab we call the competitor calendar. So you can actually choose, pick and choose properties that are most similar to you, see what their calendar looks like. So again, that's all of those, all of that little minute and granular data that you can really dive into for your market with market dashboards and neighborhood data. So would highly recommend that people give this a whirl as well.
Okay, that's so good. I didn't realize you could do that for other midterm rentals as well.
Yeah, yeah,
I love getting granular as like close as possible to my comps so that I can have a realistic
yeah,
view of how I'm performing versus how my comps are performing. Like there's nothing like a reality check. You got to be honest with yourself. When you're looking at these properties, maybe they're superior to your property or maybe they're inferior to your property. What is their pricing looking like? Are there specific features or something they're offering that you're not offering that maybe you can offer to make sure that you're on top based on what's available to you? So I really think there's so much power in having those 4 or 5 comps, to
yeah,
identify, how am I really doing? Or if I'm going into a market, well, how will I perform based on the actual proximity of the property, the amenities, the
yeah.
quality of the property compared to others. So getting granular is key. Overall market is nice to know, but it doesn't beat getting as close to your property, like that neighborhood information, getting as granular as possible is it just gives you so much more clarity, right, Shrija?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and sometimes I think hosting can also be a bit of a lonely adventure. So it's always great to have have this tool that lets you see what everybody else around you is doing and lets you learn from them as well. I think it's also it's about seeing what people around you are doing. What are you doing? Some okay, is there something that you're doing right as well? I think that's something that you could take away as well uh, from from the data here. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I love that you mentioned how lonely it could be. Yeah, and I think the power of our community is that hosting is not a solo sport, right? We got to come together and support
yeah,
each other every step of the way.
yeah.
I love that. Okay, so many of our listeners are, they're ready. Some of them have tuned in. They've turned on Price Labs. They're not quite exactly sure the opportunities that are herein. And so I wanted you to share some of the missed opportunities, maybe, that are out there on Price Labs that we really need to be tuning into. I know we've talked about the Orphan Day gap minimum stays, which is amazing. Anything else we need to be thinking about, Shrija?
I think. I think one thing that I want to call out is, especially as a midterm rental host, you may you may also want to maybe incentivize people, or actually, maybe okay, let's not incent. Let's not say incentivize. You may not want to disincentivize people that are coming in with a longer duration booking, uh, but that's a little bit far out in the distance. So let's say someone's coming in to book your property for a 2 month stay, but they're going to do it in, let's say, in February, next year. Price Labs typically by default would apply a far out premium. So if you want, you could disable that so that these people that may actually get you guaranteed revenue a little down the line are not disincentivized by that premium. So they actually get a great rate from you. So I think that's something, it's a small little tweak that people can do on their Price Labs profile specifically for midterm rentals. And yeah, I think I cannot stress enough upon making use of those orphan gap settings. I think those can just be such a game changer in getting you those few extra. hundred or few extra $1,000.
So Shreeja, we've covered so much. Like, you should see my notes. I don't think the camera is letting us see. So I've got like 3 pages of notes, guys, and I hope you have been taking notes yourself, because this has been such a powerful and eye-opening session. I feel like I need to go back to school a little bit, which I love. I love optimizing the tools that are already at my fingertips. Some of you are like myself. We love technology. We love new tools. However, sometimes we need to revisit the tools that we have to see how we can optimize and how we could leverage some of the added benefits that that tool is providing based on the development, within that organization. And I love that Price Lab is always trying to push the needle a little bit further for the host. So, Shreeja, any final words for our community as we ponder and continue to optimize our midterm rentals to pull in those guests during slow season? Any final words that you would like to share with us?
Also, I hope I didn't speak too fast, which is why we have so many notes in such a small period of
No, this
time.
is good. It's good stuff.
I think what I'd just like to leave people with is I know Price Labs pricing can sometimes feel like it's a tech tool and it's going to be daunting and ooh, how am I going to price? But to not let that deter them, there's such a wealth of information that we have, not just on Price Labs, but also on just hosting tips that we have on our website. So if you need any help with your Price Labs profile, we have this. I love our knowledge base. I go to it so many times to understand Price Labs myself. So definitely go through that. Do reach out to our support. I take a lot of pride in our support because I think we respond so quickly and so well, and to definitely make use of our trainings because those are free and they run every single day. So there's no reason to really feel like this is going to be complex because there's a lot of help on our side for it.
I love that. I didn't realize the trainings were every day,
They
so that's
are,
that's good news as well.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is good. This was so good. So, guys, today Shrija shared a whole bunch of amazing insights and gems on how midterm rentals can be a reliable option for us during slow season, and how to use tools like Price Labs to make that process as smooth as possible. We talked about common mistakes or opportunities that are missed, such as orphan day stays. We talked about leveraging the market dashboard for 30-day minimum stays to identify what our comp or competitors are doing. We talked about setting up a seasonal profile. We even got some marketing training, our 4 P's of marketing, which I'm speaking to that with all of our community. I'm actually doing a talk later on, and I'm going to say Price Labs just shared with me the 4 P's of marketing for midterm rentals. So take some notes. I will give you credit, of course. Oh my goodness. So, guys, if you are considering midterm rentals as a way to keep your properties booked during slow season, now is the time to dive all the way in and see how it can work for you. Be sure to check out Price Labs for the powerful pricing tools that can help make that transition much, much easier. All right, so we will add a link in the show notes, all the things on how you can connect with Price Labs. Of course, we use it personally. I'll share with you my link as well. And I look forward to supporting you every step of the way. A huge thank you, thank you, thank you to Shreeja today for your expertise, for sharing all of this incredible insights. I know our listeners will appreciate the practical advice. That's all for now, and I will see you all next time. Love you all to the moon.